Greetings! You didn't click on How to Train for a Triathlon Biking with Josh Hubler, but instead you've clicked on St. Paul's podcast Beyond the Sermon. During this time, we'll look beyond the words that our pastors have preached that are full of life. I'm your host, Michael Sinn. And today I have Pastor Josh with me. Say your favorite football number to the people.
Favorite football number? Let's go with 21.
21.
21 is just a good sports number in general.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Didn't know just because that's the last good birthday, then it's all downhill from there, right?
Ha!
Because you also just celebrated your birthday.
Yes, sir.
And do you feel wiser now?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
Nope, you're stuck with the same old. Put the emphasis on old, same old me. Not much wiser at this point.
Maybe it's that 35 then. That's where it is.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at, right? So
I guess so.
Yep. A year and 10 days wiser. All right. Well, are you ready to dive into your sermon?
Let's do it.
All right. So, first question, it seems very fitting as well because it's the opening illustration. Tell us a little bit about that because that's the first thing you usually go off.
Yeah, so I talked about how we all want signs, and this is one of those that and I'm sure I'll dive into it a little bit later with different questions, but this was a sermon illustration that came to me by accident, but I think that it's so relatable. I use the one personal example of what it's happened to both me, but also with kids, where it's like, all right, God, give me a sign to know if I should, one that's happened recently. I forget if it was James or Jonah. I think it was James. He had hurt his ankle, I think, and he was favoring it, and oh God, we don't want to have to deal with the urgent care or ER waiting room. We don't want to have to deal with holding him still to get the x-rays. We don't want to have to deal with the bills that come along with it and all this stuff. But also on the other hand, it's like, if he needs it, he needs it. So my illustration was just we would love to know certain things in our lives. Like, should I do this? Do I need to do this or not? And so hopefully I'm not the only one that relates to that. I think a lot of people rely on those, or at least think about that kind of thing where it's like, yeah, I could really use a sign for what to do here.
I know, wouldn't it be nice to have those signs hey, go this way now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Question 2. That it's very rare for people to do this, but you actually ended up using all 3 of your texts from Sunday, the Old Testament, the Epistle, and the Gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah, well, call it the Bugler Special. That's something that Pastor Bugler would often / when he still preaches does often do, incorporating all 3, and that's something that I just admire, how he often ties in all 3 readings with the theme. Honestly, this was difficult, and I spent a good while thinking about it. I had to listen to podcasts and clips of different sermons to kind of get an idea. Originally, I was going to go with the Numbers 22 reading, but then I got moved a little bit towards the John. But there was just nothing that I was like, yeah, I'm going to sink my teeth into this. And then I really was wrestling with this for quite a while. And so, but then it was like, I kind of saw the greater theme. And, to an extent, the theme that applies in John. But, well, the one that I'm referring to is, kind of the theme that I used of a sign of God's Spirit, which it is, but not in the way of looking to the signs in Numbers or Acts. So I had to kind of get to that point where I saw, okay, what's happening across these 3 texts, and then I was able to kind of see the greater theme out of all of them, and that's kind of what I had to do, because I was struggling. The first week back on the appointed readings, coming off of our growing through the Bible, and it gave me trouble. So yeah.
All right. Excuse me. All right, sounds good. And then question number 3. Is there anything you want to provide, any clarification from this past weekend about any part of the sermon?
So, and I don't remember what way I did it, but there were at least 1 or 2 services where I did not include this part. So again, I don't remember which one or ones I did or didn't. But at the end of my sermon, I did talk about how, like, are there streams of living water that flow from us? Yes, and that's what Jesus talks about. But ultimately, we don't look to those, like, we don't get the glory or the credit, and we don't look to them as a sign, right? Like, that's not the sign of, like, oh, Jesus is alive in me. Here is this good work, or the streams of living water flowing from me. So it's kind of like sanctification in general, where is there a place for sanctification in the life of a Christian? Yes. Just don't get it mixed up with justification, right? Is there a place for your good works? Yes. Does it have anything to do with you being saved? Not directly. It comes from your salvation, but you have to make sure not to get those wires crossed, is what I'm saying.
Okay. So you never know what that sign's going to reveal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, this past Sunday we did celebrate a special church holiday. And so, like, how much did Pentecost affect your preaching?
Yeah, it was really kind of the undercurrent of the entire sermon, right? In the Numbers reading, that line from Moses, oh, that all, I forget exactly how it's phrased, but oh, that all men would prophesy by God's Holy Spirit, right? Because that young man is jealous for Moses, or no, the young man tells Joshua, and Joshua is jealous for Moses, and Moses is like, man, I wish that everybody would prophesy. Like, that would be, like, don't worry about me getting the credit, right? And so I think, that really tied in well with the Pentecost account, Acts chapter 2, and that really set the tone for God's Spirit being poured out, and that went with all 3 texts and went through the whole sermon.
Okay. And then, what was your goal for the sermon? What were you trying to get people to, like, oh, let me apply this to my life in this way?
So, kind of going back to my opening illustration about wanting signs, my goal was to not have not for the listener to not look inside themselves, to not look to themselves for a sign that they are saved, that Jesus is with them or alive in them. Because, man, and I did mention this, I know, in the 11 o'clock service, but the devil wants that. The devil wants Christians to look to themselves for a sign that they're saved. And this is one of my soapboxes. This is something that I could spontaneously preach a sermon on. That's ultimately getting to baptismal identity, right? Because if you are looking to your faith or like your feelings or X, Y, or Z, man, that is exactly what the devil wants, because he can undermine those things. I have a family member who talks about, she knows the exact time, the date and time that she came to faith because her child, that's when she got the phone call from the doctor that her child did not have cancer. And I just think, okay, that's great. I don't doubt that faith. Mm-hmm. But if you look to that could be problematic, because what happens if your child then later gets cancer? Then you start to wonder, oh man, my faith was built on him not having cancer, right? And again, it's not to say that the faith isn't real, but it's just that when it's built on something inside of us, or something that can change, that is so dangerous. And I mentioned this at 11 o'clock, but there's been a trend over the last 10 to 15 years of especially younger people deconstructing their faith. And that's kind of like walking backwards, kind of unpacking their faith and walking away from it. And I remember hearing or reading somebody say something online where it was like they were members of a mega church where there's a rock concert, basically, really good music, and the person was like, I thought I had faith, and then I went to like a concert and I realized that's not faith, that's just what music does to you, right? So it's another thing where it's like, don't rely on something outside of you that can change, right? And yeah, I could go on and on, but look to your baptism, right? Where God made the promise to you. And actually, it was fitting because what was it? 11 days ago on your birthday, got a tattoo, another tattoo on my right arm, which is a baptismal shell, 3 water droplets, a fire, and then the number 62793. Those are not my lucky Powerball numbers. I think you need more than that, but that's my baptismal birthday. And are you doing the math to see how many numbers?
I don't think it goes up to 93, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you keep going.
All right. Obviously, that being my baptismal birthday, and that's everything. The day that God made the promises to me that I'm His child, that He loves and forgives me, and that He's made me His own. That's the sign that we look to. So, yeah. What is Google concluded about those numbers?
Yeah, you need 6 numbers. Yeah.
Oh, and if it did 1993, that would be too many. So,
I'm sure there's a combination there, but that seems like it's very off topic for this. This is not this type of a podcast.
Different signs and
yes,
different signs.
All right. My final sermon question I have for you is that you said you preached on 3 different texts for this past Sunday, and that surely Jesus wasn't in all 3 of these texts, or is that incorrect?
That'd be incorrect. He is
in everything. Where was he at in all 3 of these texts?
It was kind of above the 3 texts where the signs of God's Spirit being upon.
So the sentence above where this text started?
Yeah, so right before we got into our readings, the ones right before it, exactly.
Okay.
Jesus, because here's the thing that separates, I'm going to make 2 categories: those who believe baptism does something and those who don't. And with that, you would probably say those who baptize babies and those who don't. But, part of the reason that people who don't baptize babies, what they say, what they believe is that baptism isn't really anything. It's just you deciding to follow Jesus, and it's making your public confession of faith, right? Mm-hmm. But whereas we would say quite the opposite, right? This is where you are united to Jesus. This is where God has made that promise to you that Jesus has forgiven your sins, that you are united with Him, that the fire of the Holy Spirit is living inside you, that faith in Jesus. And so, kind of goes with the last question, but look to Jesus, and then the natural follow-up would be, well, I don't see Jesus. I haven't heard his voice audibly other than listening to the Bible app or, hearing somebody read the Bible. And so I would say, quote unquote, the next best thing is being reminded of those promises that have been made to you in your baptism, which obviously has a lot to do with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad Jesus is in all three of those texts as well. All right. Well, that is all I have for your sermon questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we move on to the next wacky question?
I did, and now I don't remember. Darn it. Yeah. I had something, but it escaped me. So if you see my face get weird during this next question, chances are it's that I remembered.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, let's begin with the deer in the headlights question. Now, did you ever play baseball in school?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure your goal, just like every other kid's goal, was to, hit that ball right over the fence for their home run or grand slam, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna let's play some home run derby, but with a twist. And obviously there's a twist because it's a deer in the headlights question,
Yes.
right? So you get 10 tennis ball pitches. And so you're going to hit for the most distance, but you have to pick 2 out of these 3 wacky objects that you have to do within this. Okay? So, you pick 2 and you leave the other one out. Understand?
So I picked 2 and one of those stays and one of them goes.
Yes.
Okay.
You got 3 options though.
Okay.
So, you pick 2 out of the 3.
Okay. And then it's like a coin flip or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
So, when you're trying to hit a home run for a total distance, you either have the bat you're now using becomes a guitar, the tennis balls that are now being used are rubber duckies instead, and you're holding an armadillo. So, which one of those are you not going to pick? We'll make it a little bit easier.
Armadillo.
All right, so you're going to try to hit a distance with a guitar with rubber duckies.
Oh, both at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh. Still better than the armadillo.
No? I don't think you're going to go very far, though, if you're trying to get distance off a rubber duck.
I feel like an armadillo is a two-handed thing.
But if you wear him as a helmet, because obviously he's in on this, so he's in it to win it.
Oh my goodness.
As well. So if you wear him like a helmet, then you're good. Are you thinking about changing your answer now?
I feel like you want me to.
I mean, no, you do whatever you
so
want.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so we now have it. All right, did you think of your thing before we close off?
No, and I'm sure right after we are done recording I will. So
all right.
You'll see my face and hear what I have to say after, but I got it. I got nothing right now.
All right, well, no worries. Well, that's also going to be our show for today. Thank you for coming on the podcast Beyond the Sermon. Next week, I will be interviewing Pastor Smith. I'm your host, Michael Sinn, and have a great rest of your day, everybody. Goodbye.